So who wants to introduce us?
You can, Dan.
I can I? Okay. Good evening. My name's Dan. I'm one of the e-commerce experts here at EKM. I'm joined this evening with my colleagues.
I'm Dominic Foran.
And I'm Rebecca White.
And we'll be discussing this evening just some general e-commerce ideas and suggestions around improving your online shop for the EKM platform and for businesses in general online in terms of e-commerce. So anybody want to go first in terms of what their day looks like or what we do?
Instagram, so
We'll get some questions from you guys soon. Well, what we do on a daily basis, it's jam-packed, isn't it?
It can be, yeah.
We get in, see what communication we've got internally and from our customers who we look after. Obviously prioritise those accordingly. Internally we tend to have updates to anything that's been going on overnight, and then obviously we can react to any customer queries accordingly on the back of that. So we're reactive in that sense to anything that may have been going on. So I think I speak for everyone, we look at our internal comms and our customer queries initially, and then that sets us up for the day really, and we can work from that. Anything that we've been working on the previous day, the last couple of days, we set our stall out accordingly and try and be as proactive as we can, which is the nature of the role really. It's not just being reactive to our customers' queries. We like to take control and propose as many ideas as we can to help our customers in the e-commerce world. So it's always hectic, the phones are always ringing, we're always getting new emails in to react to, and we're always being, as I say, proactive in a sense of our ongoing roles and responsibilities with regards to monthly reports and the detail that goes with that, which we'll probably touch on in a short while anyway. And just trying to enhance our knowledge of the e-commerce well, and anything that can affect a business in the modern day, and anything that could be useful to pass on to our customers who are extremely busy and might not have the time and resources to
or sometimes the experience
to delve into that side of things and sort of increase their knowledge on certain aspects that would affect their business that they're not always familiar with. So we just try and be as proactive as we can in that sense, and we're always attempting to assist with everything we can, and we're always trying to increase our knowledge of all matters affecting an e-commerce business essentially. So I will touch on ins and outs of other things.
Yeah, we'll go through some specific things later on. I think anyone that's previously watched any of these Facebook Live sessions with, say, the sales and customer care manager Al, or the customer experience manager Stephen, and our product trainer Gemma, will have a fairly good grounding in terms of what we cover for EKM customers as a whole, in terms of the EKM platform. Where we try and add to that and add value to that is things from a business perspective that might not necessarily be EKM specific, and areas and things to look into on that you might not necessarily get as part of a remit from EKM, or indeed maybe any other platform as well, in terms of third-party specifics, legislation and things that Dom's already covered. So yeah, I think great overview, Dom, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think we just introduced ourselves in terms of name, but I think if we maybe start and maybe give some background on who we are, how we came through EKM and things like that.
Yep. So I'm Rebecca White. I've been with EKM since February last year. I come to the company with a vast experience of various e-commerce platforms, having used them previously, both in my own company and working for other companies. I have my own business, which I've run for over 10 years, so I bring that to the table as well, business advice and just general improvement and love of web design. That pretty much covers me.
Well, I'm from more of an admin background and like an admin team leader background for the 10 years that followed being at university. You know, I've been here for a couple of years now and brought in basically for the customer, you know, customer service skills side of things in dealing with, you know, the customer facing side of the role that I've experienced previously. So start on the customer support, and obviously we started the e-commerce expert team last summer, so I moved on to that. So that's essentially what I've done in the past.
Before I start, I just want to say that we've got an iPad here and I've got a phone down there. We're not just kind of passing the time. We are tracking this across multiple devices. We are currently live on Facebook and Instagram. So we'll be looking through for any questions and queries you might have. So keep them coming through and we'll get to those later on in the live chat session. As I said earlier, my name is Dan Smith. I come from an IT and customer-facing technical background. I've previously worked as a contractor for companies like BT, Dell, and I've currently got 3.5 years experience working at EKM. I first came in on our first line team, worked my way through to the second line team, and I joined the e-commerce experts team as it launched last year. As I say, lots of customer experience, whether it's over the phone, on site in person. So even though, you know, I've come from technical backgrounds, a lot of my kind of bread and butter is customer experience and making sure that some of the language and terminology that's used, in especially the more technical areas of IT, e-commerce and technology in general, and seeing if I can simplify that in a more manageable way and convey that across to customers, because working in what is a fairly high-tech field, I think sometimes the biggest challenge is being able to speak on a level which more than one type or group of people can understand, which sometimes is the biggest challenge, especially if you've got people who aren't very experienced from a technological point of view, or you've got people who are very experienced from a technological point of view, and that can sometimes be the single biggest challenge in working in this kind of field, is just conveying meaning and finding some sort of common ground. So I think that's kind of one of my areas of skill set. Some people might disagree. I get accused of waffling on quite a bit, don't I?
We'll see.
So we have a few talking points that we want to go through, which Rebecca's just hidden. So Dom's given us a really great overview to begin with in terms of what our day looks like and what our role encompasses. I think what we might want to do is just kind of go and see what our kind of individual focuses are, because I think given the backgrounds that we've all got, we all offer kind of different things to the team, but our main aim, I think, is to offer a consistent experience all round. So I think we all contribute to that and make sure that if there's strengths that we have, that we could lend those to the team. So there's the three of us at the moment, and we also have our colleague Danny, whose background is previously with our onboarding team. So he brings a wealth of account management experience from that particular role into this one. So I would say that my particular focus, when it probably leans towards the technical side more than anything else, but I like to focus quite a lot on the concrete, or as much of the concrete as we can get. So while the idea behind maybe design changes or improvements around design might get people's attention, it's no good, in my opinion, doing things like that if you can't compare and contrast to where you were. So even if it did have a positive impact, how much of a positive impact have you potentially turned people away as a result? Understanding what changes you make to your shop are very important, which is why we tend to push things like Google Analytics as an analytics background, and heat mapping software as well. I like to make sure that I know what the baseline is moving forward, so we can basically track and just monitor what we're doing and make sure that we're making the right steps along the way.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I've been very similar to the way you've been working in terms of you need two things to compare. I might have wanted to go straight in when I took over the accounts last summer to change that older looking design to a more modern, fresher, better user experience design. But what would I have had to compare, between two time periods to see whether that design change has improved matters, has improved functionality, has improved conversion rates, and traffic and so on and so forth, all the matters that we look at in terms of the Google Analytics accounts that we have access to, and the heat mapping software and so on and so forth. We've very much worked in the same way with regards to that, because it's been quite a few months now, but we've got a really good time frame to compare stats in terms of when we have changed designs. What was it before? What was it now? Have we got better? That's our aim at the end of the day, and working in partnership with our customers. That's our collaborative aim, really. Isn't it?
I think that's the key, and I think one of the biggest questions that we had when we first started this is, how can you know about my business? I've been doing it for 15 years. You can't possibly compare with that, and we definitely understand that, and we do want to kind of learn and kind of get involved in that to an extent. But what we bring to the table is more along the e-commerce side of things, the e-commerce platform side of things, and you've got your strengths, we've got ours, and what we want to really do from a proactive point of view is try and bring that together a lot more. I think the big thing you could potentially say about certainly a do-it-yourself platform is that there are potentially gaps between where you are and where you'd like to be in terms of where your shop is performing, or particular integrations that you might be looking at and things like that, themes and things like that, the design, and again, touching on the things that both me and Don have commented on previously, how you track that, how you measure that. So is there anything different from that you would say you do for your customers?
Not really, other than the fact that I look at analytics in a big way, using the heat maps that you two guys add on. And the other thing that I look at is how your users are using your shop, how your shoppers, what makes it easier for them. So I try to look at it from a customer point of view. The quicker and easier I can find an item on the shop, the easier it is to buy, the more likely I am to carry out a transaction. So I'll often just look at, again, different device views, what the mobile site looks like, how it acts, how quick it is, how easy it is to use. Opposed just...
I think it's the first time we've touched on mobile today, isn't it?
Probably, yeah.
Is that somewhere you feel as though you invest quite a lot of your time at the moment?
In terms of the mobile
shop
that we provide, I mean, we're hoping to have some updates to that soon. I would think.
John and was it Nick that discussed that?
I believe so. And it's something that we've discussed for quite a while now, because we want a more customised, and we've been customising a lot of mobile shops to make them, well, a bit more aesthetically pleasing and simpler for the end user to find what they're looking for, so on and so forth. And it's certainly, the design's always a big thing that we look at, I suppose, isn't it? Because we have a range of customers, don't we? Some might not necessarily need their design touching, whereas now that we're monitoring the stats, they may well do. But it's always something that we need to look at, and we use to back up a design change. For example, we need those stats and the software that we use and the tools that are available to us to sort of take that to our customer, who might not necessarily think that they need or want a design change, because like our opening gambit usually is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They've got to the stage where they're on the established plan because they're successful businesses, and their design and their shop has worked for them for all these years.
I think that's possibly
But,
one of the biggest kind of objections that we might have, not just to the e-commerce experts
as a whole,
but also I think Evo mode as well,
Yeah.
run into things like that in terms of, as Dominic says, a lot of the rules around things like that, certainly in a successful business, is if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And that's why quite a lot of the sometimes the background work that we do around analytics, heat mapping, studying customer behaviours and conversion rate optimization is all around basically being able to say, look, this might have worked, and there's nothing actually wrong with what your shop looks like now. It's just it's been there a while. It's maybe a little bit dated. There are probably or possibly even new design standards that have come in. You'll notice that browsers are updating all the time. One of the browser updates that we've kind of been very aware of lately is around some of the updates to Chrome 56 and also to Firefox around the flagging of secure websites, or rather insecure websites, and dealing with that, making sure that we can maximise where shops are on that. So I think design and the look and feel of a shop is sometimes a big point of contention for us in terms of encourage people to move forward. But sometimes you've got to learn to, in what we do, I think quite a lot of it is a little bit of compromise, but also you've got to be a little bit persuasive at times, just to kind of gently nudge people a little bit more forward, because ultimately, while it still might work now, moving forward, especially with like new devices, new browsers, it can end up losing your sales as you go forward. So I think that's that.
And that's why it's important for us to stay on top of things and really, as I was touching on previously, just do as much research as we can and keep on top of the game, essentially. And obviously, in our world, things change every minute of the day. So it's our job. If we're proposing ideas like that that are a big thing for our customers and their business, then it's our priority to stay on top of our game, because if anything does change, we've proposed that idea, we've changed that design. Well, if it, we don't want any implications further down the line, so it's our role and the importance of that to stay on top of our game as well.
Absolutely. I mean, just to wind back to an EKM perspective, just for a moment, I think it's important just to kind of explain that if you are on the EKM established plan, that you, as well as having your e-commerce expert, we're all assigned to individual customers. So my customers would have a direct dial contact number for me, they've got a direct email address for me, and generally speaking, 9 times out of 10 when they call through, they'll speak to me. So that puts an awful lot of accountability on us as individuals and as a team to make sure that if we are suggesting something, that it's the right thing to suggest, that it's the right thing for that shop, for the right thing for that customer. I think one of the biggest single frustrations in customer service in general is that you can call up a company, especially a larger company, speak to somebody, and you've got very little chance of ever speaking to that same person again. And certainly with the EKM established plan, you get a dedicated account manager for the foreseeable future, and there's no time limit on that. And we work with you to make sure that we're making progress together. And it's one of those things that we like to review at least, have a chat at least every month, a report every month, and we want to make sure that we're kind of investing in your shop together. That might vary from person to person. You might only speak to one person, every 3 months, and another person a couple of times a month. But in general, we are there as a resource. If you're watching at the moment and you are on the established tier and you've not made use of us as a resource, please do. We are absolutely here. We will be reaching out in the near future if we haven't already. So it's one of those things to consider. We are here to help, and I think we touched on it earlier on. You don't know what you don't know. So there might be something that you've never even considered that can help with your shop that myself, Rebecca, Dominic, or Danny will be able to help you with.
Definitely.
Have we got any? How's it looking? Have we got anything that's come through that we need to answer? Or?
We've got a question that's been prompted, just a question kind of from ourselves, if you like, or from whoever's watching it, Big Brother EKM headquarters.
The boss.
Yeah, we've got a question. Does everyone get an account manager with EKM?
No, there's different styles of account managers to different departments, and this can be confusing sometimes.
Yeah.
When you sign up as a new customer within sales, you get assigned an account manager for the first 6 months to hold your hand and make sure that you can launch your shop without any problems. After 6 months, that then hands over to our support team, who are there to support you whenever you need it, during office hours, of course. And then once you're an established business, and we usually say, is it earnings over 150,000 on a shop?
That's where we encourage people to move up. Where you can sign up for the EKM established tier at any point. So if you already have an established business and you know that you're already needing that kind of level of support, or alternatively, even if you are a new business, but you feel as though you kind of want to start, you've got the budget and the scope to start looking, straight ahead at the bigger e-commerce picture, then absolutely you can start with the e-commerce tier from scratch. So yeah, just to kind of recap on that, we call ourselves e-commerce experts, and that's kind of some internal branding on that. We are effectively account managers across the board. E-commerce experts is our internal term. Not sure if that's going to be the internal term moving forward.
We might be changing that, but that's up for debate, isn't it?
We've had some discussions internally, and it's, everybody is a e-commerce expert in their own right, whether or not it's a customer-facing person or somebody on our marketing team, certainly in our engineering team. We only are where we are because we're experts in the e-commerce field, and if we weren't, we probably wouldn't be here. So, we might be working around on the branding on that, but the message to get across is we are the account managers for the established tier, and we want to be able to deliver a level of service that not only justifies the established tier, but also helps you grow your business even further than that, and potentially beyond. And there are some other options in the near future that we might be able to talk to you about a little bit down the line, but for the moment, yeah. So. Do we have any questions on Instagram at all?
I'm not able to access it at the moment because it's not showing it me, which I'm trying to fix. I'm not just sat here playing on an iPad ignoring you all.
Well, that's also another aspect of the role, isn't it? In terms of, we want, as well as in terms of focusing on the wider e-commerce field, talking about having a point of contact. Even if you have a technical issue with your EKM shop, it's not like you get referred to a different department. If you want to talk to us about Google Analytics and heat mapping, you can do. If you want to talk to us about a problem adding and editing products on the shop, you can do. If you've got a problem with an order you'd like to query with us, you absolutely can do. As I say, we're here to kind of try and be the one-stop shop with that single point of contact. And if things do then need the attention of somebody else, it will still be myself, Dom, Rebecca or Danny that comes back to you to discuss that further, or to get any more information that might be necessary. So we really do try and make sure that you have to do as little of the running as possible.
As we've said, it's absolutely, we will help as much as we can with regards to anything that can affect your business, essentially. If there's some new business legislation or new tax rules or something, you might not have as we touched on before, you might not have the time, resources to go out and research that yourself. It can be complex, can't it? Ask us, we can do some digging for you, but it can be anything that can affect your business, and we've touched on many of those anyway.
Just to this point, in terms of things that might affect your business, there's an element of crowdsourcing that goes on with having an EKM account manager, because we've got many different customers from many different walks of business that we all interact with on a daily basis, and we all then speak internally. So if one person's got a question that they've never come across before, if I come across something that I've not seen before around Google Analytics, I might prompt that with Rebecca, or something around heat mapping that I've not seen before, I might bridge that with Dom. And as a result, there's a constant communication going on there, which means that we might only have one customer that's approached us with a particular question, because that question's been asked and it's been shared amongst the team, that means that we're ready to answer that question again moving forward. So there's a massive amount of knowledge share that goes on, not just amongst our team, but amongst the customer services team or customer experience team as a whole and across the business.
Yeah, yeah. We've got internal communications that's always getting added to, and you know, it's basically instant communication that we use. And if there's a new, I think there's potentially some new legislation coming out with regards to, is it over 18 websites that may require an age checker. So one of our guys in our department who's very switched on with JavaScript, and he's come up with a model that would basically, it's ready to go. We pop it in our the design in the EKM in the EKM shop, and as soon as that comes in, and that's a guy from customer support.
That's a shout out to Nick Hunt, by the way.
Yeah.
Well done, Nick.
You've saved us a lot of work there. Yeah. So it's always keeping on top of the game, knowing what's going to affect the businesses that we look after, because as Dan was saying, it's a broad spectrum of probably every industry you could think of that we deal with, and this one legislation change that was raised, I think, last week by another member of the team has prompted our colleague Nick to come up with this as a fix for it, essentially. So as soon as that new law comes into place, we've got an instant sort of piece of design that we can pop on there that will help out many businesses that we look after.
Absolutely, and it's one of those areas as well that, because it can sneak up on a particular subsection, it's an example of where having the people and the knowledge can sometimes supersede the ability of a platform, the scale of the EKM shop, or even other content management systems on the market. They take time to natively support things like that. So having good people in the team, having the inclination to go out and find fixes and solve problems is it's a massive part of the EKM team. And as I say, because obviously Nick's part of our customer services and customer support team, so you might call up and you're not on the established plan, you might get to speak to Nick one day, but having myself or Dominic, Rebecca as your account manager or e-commerce expert, we're going to have that information readily available for you, and we're going to be able to convey that across very, very quickly, because as I say, communication within the team is pretty good.
Yeah.
On that, things like that. Got a couple of questions on Facebook, if we're all right with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anything anyone wants to add? Dave Blackham, who's actually one of our staff, has asked the question: how can someone promote their site without spending a lot of money?
Oh, easy. Well, say easy, really, off the tongue. I'm currently working with one of the established customers that's brand new. So it's brand new website, brand new domain. This week I've used Webmaster Tools or Google Search Console, ensuring that we've submitted the sitemaps. Straight away we're seeing where she ranks within search results, so that she can make sure that she's using keywords effectively and making sure she's got those terms on her products, and using social media. Social media, if you can get something trending on Facebook, something interactive posts, it can work wonders for you.
It's absolutely huge, is social media, as you probably know. It's a massively powerful tool to get your brand out there, and we encourage that non-stop on a daily basis. That you need to get the word out there. You need to promote your products and link back to your shop, and
I'd say that's part of the reason we're here at 7:30 at night.
Yeah,
We try to practice what we preach, because, as you say, it's got such a reach.
Massive reach.
And I would add as well that the thing is with social media, and it was a conversation I had yesterday with one of my customers in terms of if I want something, I'm just going to type it into a search engine. I'm just going to go into Google. The thing is with Facebook is that people go on Facebook to wind down or to be entertained. They're not necessarily there to be marketed to. But that doesn't mean to say that it doesn't happen. If you're going on social media, then you're going to be exposed to whatever it is that happens to appear in your feed. And if something is particularly big at that particular time, because someone get and shared it a lot, and if you get really lucky and it goes viral, then that's, you know, a lot of free advertising that's gone an awful long way.
Touching on that, going back to an old colleague of ours, Safwan, he had his own business, and what he marketed on was what was trending now. And then with that, he would find out what was trending and what product he had that would fulfill that trend, and then he could get on that latest hashtag.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself, free advertising, if you can again just pick up on that trend and get it out there, it's amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the avenues of social media that I think sometimes fails to get a mention is YouTube as well. Certainly for certain businesses, in terms of how-to videos.
I was just about to mention that.
Do you want to carry on with that then?
Well, I mean, it's something that I was discussing with one of my customers the other day. There's a lot of it's all the rage, isn't it? You know, tutorial videos where you can learn something about a particular product, or I know there's different how-to videos for different industries, makeup videos, you know, and there's all sorts. You cover all bases, don't you? And
I think it also builds out a little bit of trust as well, though, because quite a lot of those also then have links to suggested products.
There we go. Yeah.
And that's where from the e-commerce perspective, you know, ultimately, if you're an e-commerce, you at the end of the day, beyond the design and beyond customer service and beyond anything else, the ultimate pit is you want to get paid. Yeah. You know, take away all the dressing and take away all the niceties of it. You're there because you're there to sell things, and you're there because you want to get paid. And when you do and use social media in a positive and constructive way in terms of either instructing or building trust with people, you know, because you've helped them do that, they're more likely to at least give you a look. I mean, this might be a customer that you would never have acquired through any other channel. You know, they're not maybe not on Facebook, or you're not in their circle on Facebook, things like that. So there's all kinds of different methods of doing things, and again, it kind of depends on your industry, your focus and your niche in terms of which avenue it's best to go down. For example, I think it was you that was talking, or possibly our ex-colleague Eve, that was talking about if you've got something that's fairly graphical, or, you know, aesthetically pleasing, like avenues like Pinterest might be the way to go, and things like that. If you've got, you know, as I say, how-to videos are good for YouTube. Facebook and Twitter tend to overlap a lot, but I think sometimes, certainly in terms of Twitter and Instagram at the moment, you know, images are doing a lot of traffic, and for people, as people often say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and even if it just piques somebody's interest and it's linked back to a shop, links back to a product, links back to a category, then that can do wonders in terms of generating interest.
Touching on the videos, you see a lot of shops where they're putting the videos, especially how to use a product or how to set it up, within a product description, embedding your videos in. Again, that is really good for your search engines. They love pages that are interactive. So if you've got a product and it can help you, if you're getting a lot of support calls or emails, how do I use it? You know, I bought this iPad, how do I fit this case? If you can put a video on your product description, this is how it fits, and this is how to tell that you've got an iPad 1 or an iPad 2, an iPad Pro. Again, it just helps sell your product. And
the thing is as well, this is the kind of, you know, conversation that we welcome as well from our customers, because you might have how-to guides on particular platforms that teach you the very basics of how to implement something, but then you actually do it and you follow that guide, and actually the end results you get are really not what you expected, or it causes a problem, or it interferes with something else. So if you're nervous about adding any of this content, or you're looking for a bit of guidance or best practice in where this might go on your shop, then that's definitely something you can bring to the e-commerce experts team and your dedicated e-commerce expert. Does anybody have any thoughts to finish off? We've got another question from the people upstairs.
The people upstairs?
The people upstairs.
Fire away.
No, go on.
The people upstairs would like to ask us, given you are working on some of the biggest shops with EKM, what would you... I'm guessing that's supposed to say. What would you each say your top tip for improvement would be?
It's a tough one, because we have each business is different. We come across different different aspects of a shop that could be improved on a daily basis. I mean, we look after so many, don't we? That it might be social media. I was just talking to one of my colleagues today about one of the customers that I look after, and you know, I've discussed it with them about improving their social media presence, which you've just touched on, because that's gone quiet for a while, and they do need a bit of guidance on that. So that is what I am really pushing them to sort of improve on, because that is, as we've touched on, it's a massively powerful tool. So it might be social media for one, but it might be something completely different for the next customer that comes along. So in terms of one specific thing, it's a huge range of different things, and it's dependent on the customer, their experience, their knowledge of all aspects of e-commerce and the platform itself. You know, that it could be improving images, or it could be anything, because each of our customers is you know, unique essentially, and each have their strengths, and they all, you know, some have weaknesses as well. So it's for us to identify, we liaise so much with our customers that we've got to know maybe strengths and weaknesses, and that's where we have to adapt ourselves to you know, fill that gap and bridge that gap, and give them support on X, Y, and Z, but the next person might be A, B, C. You know what I mean? So it's different in different situations, and that's why it's important for us to know our customers inside out, and I believe we genuinely do, and for us to sort of bridge those weakness gaps, if you will.
Absolutely.
I think for me, my top tip is just not to lose sight of where you're going.
Yeah.
I come across a lot of customers, although they are our biggest established customers, they were top of Google 2 years ago, and suddenly the amount that I get said, I can't be found on Google, why? I used to trend for this, and they've just lost sight that they've now got new competition, that their site's maybe a little bit outdated, or it doesn't fit very well on an iPad or a tablet, or else even the mobile site, they haven't looked at it. That's where I look at all devices when I go and look at evolution mode on a shop, which is something as experts that we do in-house. But yeah, just don't lose sight of where you're going and what you want to achieve. You've got to have a goal in mind, and whether that goal be this week, this next month, whatever. If your goal is that you want to be top of Google, just keep an eye on what your competition are doing and the copy on your website, and make sure it's relevant.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one of the kind of concepts, and I dare say it's kind of a summary, really, of what you guys have already touched on. If I was to kind of try and put it in a nutshell, it would be, why do you do what you do? And that's probably the best question I can ask every customer that I've got, simply because I think sometimes, as you kind of alluded to there, people end up focusing on the micro as opposed to the macro, in that, you know, what people will come on with the query, well, I want to be number one, page one on this search engine for this particular term. But that's not ultimately what it is you're out to do. That's going to be a symptom, that's going to be an ingredient, and that's definitely going to help. But if that is what you spend all of your time focusing on, there are going to be other avenues that you're going to lose focus on, whether it's not you're not focusing on enough attention on social, or not enough through maybe, you know, something we haven't touched on so far is like other means of content generation, so such things as blogging and email marketing, because those things are something that, you know, social media is, relatively speaking, the new kid to the block. And even though it feels like it's been around for a long time, because, you know, Facebook was 2004, I think Facebook launched. But in terms of it being a really instrumental business tool, that is still relatively new school for that. And before that, you know, blogs and email marketing were pretty much the mainstay, really, weren't they? Yeah. So, as I say, it's kind of again, why do you do what you do? And I think it's something that we've kind of asked ourselves internally here at EKM we wanted to refocus, really figure out what we wanted as what we wanted to be as a company, because we've had several products over the years that have been there to supplement the EKM platform. But do we want products, or do we want, do we want to be the best at what we do? And that's really what we're looking for, and that's part of the EKM established plan. It's part of the EKM. It's easy for me to say, isn't it? EKM e-commerce experts team is all about just making sure that we're looking after our customers in a way that we would want, if not ourselves, then certainly our friends and family members to be looked after if they had shops, if they had businesses and things like that. So that's that applies to, I think, why do you do what you do is probably the only thing I could suggest that applies to any business ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got any more questions on Facebook?
I got distracted before and it seems to have gone away. If you give me a moment, just talk amongst yourselves.
Right, looking back at this.
I was just going to touch on one thing. We've covered quite a lot of what we try and focus on, and one of our aims and part of our role is every month to provide a report to our customers that encapsulates everything that could basically affect them as a business, and everything that we can have a look at and analyse to improve their traffic, their conversions, and so on and so forth. So, the monthly report will always include, some Google Analytics information that we compare to maybe the same time last year, because it might be a seasonal business, or month on month we might be comparing stats to see if things have improved. And in that we touch on Google AdWords, if our customers are using Google AdWords as well, what campaigns have been successful in the time frame that we're looking at. We drill down into the ad groups and the actual individual keywords as well, what's working, what's not, what's improved, what we what we're making money on, in terms of the keywords, etc. We include the heat mapping that we've done for our customers to basically, heat mapping, if you don't know it, it tells us, it records a snapshot of a page or multiple pages. It tells us where your visitors are clicking in terms of a heat map and different colours representing the intensity.
If you've ever played hotter, colder, colder, it's
pretty much that where we're clicking,
but around clicks or hovers,
and scrolls as well. How far they're scrolling down the page. If you've got 100 products on your page, how many people are seeing line 50? 10%. If only 10% of visitors have seen it, is that really beneficial to that particular page? So
I mean, that's something we always see, and we can probably give that as a top tip at the moment, is that especially for home pages, less than 50% of people scroll down.
Yeah. It's
on an e-commerce website, you want to make sure that you drive whatever content you have in that kind of first view on the page. It leads somewhere.
It needs to grab the attention, and you need to, it needs to lead somewhere that you want your visitors to reach, essentially, doesn't it? And so it's a whole multitude of things that we can get from the heat mapping that goes in these monthly reports as well, and just pointers on. We look at everyone's social media accounts, don't we? Yeah. What they're using, what they're not using, what they could be doing better. Any outside influences that could affect your business as well, business legislation update, algorithm changes, anything that could
even things
affect.
Like what's coming up on the platform, what changes are we making?
Yeah. What have we done and what are we going to be doing? We updated firewalls in January, for example, and just little things that can affect your shop that we've done. We want to keep you updated, and we do via dashboard, we do via email communication. But it's just a nice little snapshot of what we've done, what's coming up. So that's all in the monthly reports that we get out to our customers as well. So everything that could affect your business and all the stats that represent what's been happening and where we can improve. Obviously, it highlights where we can improve, what's working, what's not. and our main aim is to help increase conversions at the end of the day, and we can use all those tools available to us to, give some recommendations, in terms of improving that, because at the end of the day, you want to be successful, we want you to be successful at the end of the day, and that's our role, to help as much as we can. And we try and get all that information within a monthly report to keep you up to speed accordingly, because again, you might not have the time, the resources to have a look in detail at your analytics, your AdWords, and so on and so forth. So,
well, certainly in the first instance, you might not know what to look for, or B, where to look.
Exactly.
And it's not, again, one of the things I would like to stress from my perspective is that quite a lot of my customers, certainly around Google Analytics, we don't do Google Analytics for you, as it were. The Google Analytics account that we access and pull information from are our customers' Google Analytics account.
Yeah.
They grant us access, and we then look through that. And one of the things that I like to do with my customers is, as well as deliver monthly reports and things like that, when I must admit I'm probably the weakest on the team at finishing mine. As I say, I've come from a more reactive background, so. But one of the things that I do like to do when I do with my customers on the phone, especially for those that are Google Analytics virgins, or that don't have that much experience or confidence in it, or it's basically something that they've added to their shop and then just kind of left it there, because again they've not really known what to do, is I like to do tours, just a quick introduction. This is how you can look at this information, this is how you can find that information. And again, it might not necessarily mean anything long term, but again, in terms of adding value to the EKM platform, or just e-commerce in general, what I like to do is make sure that anything that is going on that's contributing towards the success of your business is something that you or your staff can then replicate afterwards. I think sometimes some of the problems that people have is that there are things that happen for them, or things that happen incidentally, but then stop happening. I think we touched on the Google algorithm changes. Is that that was some of the biggest kind of drop-offs we see on that is where someone's paid for some SEO work a few years ago that was bang on what you needed at the time, but that's then dropped off. And that's the rule. Yeah, the rules have changed, and for whatever reason, those companies either haven't known enough, or haven't been in a position to do that work all over again, or it's just now the simple fact that while you could game the system to a point several years ago, it's really not.
You can't anymore.
No, I think on touching on that as well, I have quite a few customers that have paid outside agencies to do Google Analytics for them. And sometimes it's been to the value of like £300, £400, £500, £600 a month. And when I've produced the reports for them and they've gone, oh, I don't need to be spending that money, that's giving us such good value for the £150 a month, when you remove that. And I've said to them, well, rather than spending it there, go and spend it on Google AdWords, or go and spend it on social advertising, and see if that brings in more conversions for you, more sales, more money. That is what makes your shop successful.
Yeah, I mean, there's a question that I'm going to skip a couple because it kind of ties into that, which is getting the first page on Google important and possible still? And I would say that it is certainly possible because there are people there. Is it as important? I mean, it kind of varies because it depends on your marketing strategy, and it depends on who you're bringing in. I suppose if the only advertising you're doing, or the only I think the term in the industry is acquisition, how do you get people to your shop? If the only route you've got to your shop is organic, then yeah, you've got to really depend on Google rankings. But I think that what you were saying there kind of touches on quite a lot of the issues that some customers see, in that there is such a thing as bad traffic. And that's part of why one of the key metrics that we look at over traffic and over revenue is the e-commerce conversion rate, because that is an area that we can, very easily at least start to make changes to improve, because you can improve your performance by improving your e-commerce your e-commerce conversion rate, and you've actually brought no more people to your shop. inversely, you can actually make that worse by bringing in a load of traffic to your shop that isn't right. That is, it's marketed from the wrong place. People think that you're not what you actually are, and it actually then detracts from the user experience as well, because where search engines see that you've got a high bounce rate, especially for particular terms, then they may not refer you as well. So, there is such a thing as bad traffic. Do you guys mind if we just jump back to a few more questions?
That's fine.
Go for it.
We've got a question from Will Passmore. We are looking to change our theme. We found one we like. Can we contact you so you maybe give us web address of someone else using that theme so we can have more of an idea of what it might look like when it's live? Anyone, one of you want to say that?
I have sometimes referred customers and sort of said, if they said, I like the new assembly theme, I might say, right, that's one that I personally like for certain industries. It can be easily converted to, I think we set it out as it's construction or sort of like a DIY kind of theme, but equally it can fit clothing, it can fit a lot of themes, and I'll quite happily with my customers sort of say, right, you can look at this shop and that shop. They've based it on that theme. They may have done a little bit of sort of like tweaking or customisation of it.
I'll jump in there because I prefer not to do that, and it's, again, it does come down to a preference. There's kind of, there's no right and wrong way of doing things as long as what you're doing gets the result at the end of the day. My kind of personal preference is with EKM you get a test shop, and built into the EKM platform is a test shop. We call it a sandbox shop, where you can basically get a copy of what is your live shop, and it's not got an order section, it's not got a marketing section, but it is, other than that, it is your shop. So you can then go into the shop tab and make changes to elements and see what different bits look alike in there, or, which the point I'm about to touch on and what we do quite often, is that in the design section where you can change your theme, you can change your theme on what is basically a replica of your shop and see how the different themes look on your shop. Because that, for me, is the biggest challenge sometimes that you have, is that you can have, when we see it, quite often, especially with like newly released themes, is that you can have a newly released EKM theme and a multitude of reasonably new sign-up shops, and that theme looks radically different. And I think it's fair to say sometimes not always in a good way.
No.
Because there are certain aspects of certain themes that suit particular styles. I think one of the challenges that styles run into can be category structure. So, for example, on a theme where the category structure runs along the top, you're only going to want a maximum of 6 to 8 top-level categories. And if you're in an industry that has more than a dozen as standard, we would still probably recommend that you try and condense that where possible. Yeah. There are some industries we see that it does happen a lot, though. In those cases, you're probably going to want a theme that has category structure down the left-hand side, and that's the kind of insight that we can give just in general, but also as well that's a particular functionality that the EKM shop platform does take care of quite well, in that you can try, all of our themes are free, I think it's a point of stress, but just to kind of phrase, it's something you can definitely try before you buy, and you've not risked your live shop or any sales for that particular day by applying it onto your test shop first.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Dan. Really, I'm working with several of our customers now within the test shop, because we need to freshen the designs up, and we can have a play around. They might come to me with with a question of, well, which one will I go for? I said, well, I'll have a play around. We'll see how it all looks. I'll get back in contact with you, and we'll take it from there, sort of thing. We'll work together to see what looks the best for your site. It's a carbon copy of your live shop as it stands now, with all the categories and products and so on and so forth. So I always like to work in the test shop, because we've got hundreds of themes, as Dan was touching on, that we could pop onto the shop. So it's always worthwhile trying it out in the test shop, because that will never affect your live shop, and we can just take it from there essentially.
Okay. Well, I've got a question here from Darren Willman. and it touches on some of the points we were raising before, so we might just kind of be able to address this quite quickly for Darren. We sell unique items, and when doing a Google search for competitors, we found that the Google search was very low, below 5%. What would you recommend to do which would help reach my unique customers? I'm struggling with the correct keywords and metas. Can someone help with this? I've called support before.
Yeah, I mean, touching on what I said before about using the webmaster tools, or what's known as the Google Search Console. Within that, you can go into search analytics, and that will tell you what keywords or what search terms, where your position is, so what rank you are within Google, how many times you've come up, and what the search volumes are. So from that, you can then optimise your site around that. You can also, within, I don't know if it's in webmaster tools now, or within analytics, the keyword planner.
Keyword planner.
It was well, that's primarily AdWords, that one, wasn't it? Keyword planner.
Yeah, I think it may still be in
It's
AdWords
definitely
now.
still in AdWords. I don't know if it's made the jump. I think it might sometimes appear in analytics if you've linked your accounts.
Yeah. But using the keyword planner again, just to find out different search terms. I had a conversation with a customer which was, she was focusing on lingerie, and I said another term for that, which she never used anywhere on her site, was underwear. And something as simple as that as, you may search for lingerie, Dominic may search for underwear when buying a Valentine's gift.
Well, that's just it. I mean, and something as simple as that in terms of language is very, very powerful, because if you think about how many particular results might come up for the term lingerie, whereas if you say even just adding it, I mean, the common thing as well to remember with keywords is that keywords have kind of, in terms of what keywords were 5 years ago, they've changed dramatically, because what an appropriate term might be nowadays for keywords is actually probably key phrase.
Yeah.
So, and again, especially in terms of common language and common vernacular, search engines are getting really good, and they're really picking up on, different ways to say the same thing. So you could have underwear, but you can potentially maybe naughty underwear.
Yeah.
And,
What I always say, and I feel it's important, but sort of simple in a way, is you've got to think about what your customers are searching for. What are they going to be typing into Google, essentially? Put yourself in their position. How are they going to find my product? What words are they going to use? What search terms are they going to use? It sounds simple, but put yourself in their position.
It's also important as well to remember that you might have a shop, and you might think about your shop as your shop. Certainly where it comes to search engines, they do think about a shop as a whole, especially where you have submitted it to the Search Console and it has crawled your sitemap. But ultimately, when it comes down to the link that a customer might click on to get to a particular page, they're looking at the page. So you might, I had an example, this is a few years ago for me now when I was on the first line team, but I had a customer that was really struggling to advertise the fact that they sold foam mattress toppers, because when you tried typing in foam, it didn't bring up anything up. And then I realised, going through their pages, that the only place or even area that it even mentioned the fact that it was to do with foam was in the URL, the web address. And that's the thing as well to remember, in that, in the early days of the internet, if you got a domain name that had what you did in it, then that was half the battle. And right now, if that's not actually represented as content on your page, it doesn't matter what you have as your domain name. It's just your domain name. So while it's important from a branding perspective to get the right domain name, you can't rely on that, on just that, to get the impact that you want on a page. So if you want it to say foam, or people to be able to find you by searching foam mattress, then make sure it says foam mattress on your page.
Well, essentially, what we always say is unique, relevant content is essential. Mm-hmm. Search engines love unique, relevant content, and that's what we always say is paramount.
I mean, what my recommendation there at the end to Darren would be, don't worry about keywords. It ties into the point we made before in terms of your goal for that page isn't for it to be number one on Google. It's to convey why someone should buy that product. And if you get that right, then that will appear in Google regardless. And the key thing on that is just to make sure that there might only be so many ways that you can sell this flask, but the way that I might sell this flask just by talking about it is very different from the way that Dominic might sell this flask by talking about it. So in terms of generating your unique content, you've got it there just by talking the way that you would talk and typing the way that you would type. I think we've just lost Instagram.
Yeah.
I think we have. I think
Yeah.
it's just having a wobble and it's just cut off now. So I think
No, Instagram just
it's
cuts
an hour.
off after
It's
an
an
hour.
hour, isn't it?
There's
So
no limit.
Well, hasn't it flown by?
it's flown by.
Have we got any outstanding questions?
We do have a couple. I think, will you guys mind answering? We'll try and fly through these if we can.
Yep.
Hopefully a nice quick one from the people upstairs. How do you decide which account manager a shop owner gets, or e-commerce expert a shop owner gets?
Oh, sometimes we fight for them. literally. If I see a customer that I just love their shop, I will say it. I will take dibs on it.
Mm-hmm. I think that it's true for. I know at least accounts where I've basically said, yeah, I'll pick up that customer just because I know I've got a rapport with them. I've dealt with them previously. Generally speaking, if it's a new customer and one that's just upgraded to the established tier, we'll try and balance it out. So obviously we've only got a certain number of hours in our days and a certain number of days in the month. So with that in mind, we try and make sure that not one person has got too many customers.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, if there's no kind of prior history there, it'll just go with the person with the least number of accounts at that particular time.
Yeah.
And that just makes sure that we've got an even keel.
An
But
even keel, yeah.
as I say, where we do have a rapport with a particular customer, it can just make sense just to pick that account.
Yeah, I think it's massively important if you've built up that rapport and relationship with an existing customer. We have members of staff that leave us that have to pass accounts on, and if you've come into contact with one of their customers or a few of their customers previously, you've built up that rapport. It's massively important, and you feel like you know them already, and it's you're on the road already, aren't you, to working with them essentially, because you have done before, because you've helped them out.
I think another point of that is as well is depending on what that customer wants or requires from us, as to sometimes who gets their account. If they have a particular need that matches a particular account manager, there's a good chance that that account manager could be given that account.
Yeah, that's sometimes the way that it can work. Just aware of time, and obviously we've still got some questions outstanding. The next question on Facebook is, what is the biggest issue facing most online shops?
Oh.
I think that's difficult. As we touched on previously, each of our customers has different strengths and different focuses essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Each business is different and has different needs, so to say one thing is extremely difficult, because you have to cater your sort of strengths as an account manager to help that particular business out, or businesses out. So I don't know, can you pinpoint one thing, or can you just help that business in the areas that they need help with essentially?
I would suggest that the biggest thing facing online shops at the moment is competition.
Yeah,
it's probably easier than it's ever been, and EKM are partly responsible for that, and so are other e-commerce platforms and CMSs. But it's never been easier to set up your own online shop.
Okay.
So the key thing there is, for me, is to make sure that, are you setting up a shop because you just want a shop, or are you setting up a business? And again, it goes back down to what I said earlier about why do you do what you do, and if you're looking to set up a shop, then definitely look at that, and it's something you should definitely consider if that's what you want to do. Our CEO Anthony is very big on the concept of be your own boss, and he really wants to encourage that. That's been his vision for taking EKM from his bedroom to where it is now. But at the same time, you can't just do that by opening a shop, putting on a single product with a picture that you've taken from Google Images and say, please buy this.
And then the next day, you're waiting for all these orders to come in. It doesn't necessarily work. Well, it doesn't work that hard, does it?
It's as I say. It's I think the key thing is that there is a lot of competition, and while we'll encourage people to do and get as far as they possibly can with their businesses, the key thing is that you've got a clear idea of what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. And we'll definitely help you get there where we can.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
That's what we're here for.
Question again from the people upstairs. What are the established shops doing differently to those on startup? How have they managed to grow into a fairly large business? I think that would be a nice one for Danny to answer if he was here.
Yeah, because he's started as an account manager in sales. He's helped businesses start out for the first 6 months and helped them grow from day one, hasn't he? So, some have made the way to our plan. So maybe if we can get on there retrospectively after this, and Danny can fire his thoughts across there. But he's certainly the right man from seeing it from day one to where a business may well be on the established plan.
I think, as a single, again, if we were to boil it down to a single very simplistic idea, I think the key word there is just kind of survive. It takes a certain amount of tenacity and patience and, confidence that you're going to get to where you need to be.
Yeah.
Because, we speak to businesses on a daily basis that go through lulls and go through periods where they've struggled, and as I say, we've had experiences in the past with businesses who've been hit hard by things like the Google algorithms changing and things like that. And if I think something to remember, and it's something kind of difficult to if you take a step back from e-commerce, which is what we all do. And the reason that I'd imagine most of you watching is that if it was really, 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 really easy, everyone would be doing it.
Everyone would be doing it.
Yeah. and that's just the thing. Everybody's not doing it, and people try. And I would also say, I dare say, if Anthony was sat here right now, he would say, "Don't be afraid to fail."
Yeah.
It'd probably be what he would say to people, because that's probably the single biggest thing. If you panic, you're probably likely to either make bad choices or, just...
If you're making snap decisions because you're reacting to something that's happened, then you may not necessarily make informed decisions, and you just got to look at the bigger picture and sort of ride the wave at that moment in time and stick at it, as you say, stick at it.
Next question from Jenny Greenwood is a really good question, actually, this one, but I'm not sure whether I'm going to have an answer for it. Is A/B testing available with an EKM shop?
Oh.
As far as I'm aware, I'm not aware of a mechanism that's in the pipeline at the moment for A/B split testing on EKM shops. I think it would be a really good addition to an EKM shop, so it's potentially something that we can kind of run up the flagpole. It's possibly something that our head of engineering, Nick, might have been able to better answer. Certainly, bringing it back to an e-commerce expert perspective, that is, again, it's not necessarily a mechanism that allows you to do that. It's certainly probably not real time, but that's also why we like to do a lot of the analytical stuff that we do based around heat mapping and Google Analytics and CRO, is because if we're going to make a change, we want to make sure that's been a positive change and maximising what that change can bring. So, even if we have made a positive change, is it as positive as it could be? Could it be better? And that's this is the kind of tooling that we have that helps us understand that. So while we don't have a mechanism at the moment for A/B split testing, it's kind of baked into the processes we're already following. I would say.
Yeah.
We might have some volunteers. Claire Adams-Neil would like to know, how's the slide and do we get a demo?
The slide is amazing.
It is.
I'll probably share it actually on my EKM company account. I did video one of our members of staff going down it last week, and to say that she screamed.
A little bit of an understanding.
Well,
I think we have to get a little bit of consent before.
We may have to.
Let's just say it got played from the opposite side of the office earlier on today, and I thought it was an opera singer. And I spoke to her at lunchtime actually, and I don't think she'll be doing that again. So maybe we'll need a little bit of consent, or maybe just one of us guys will go down tomorrow and post it on there. But it is, it's a fantastic new office, and we thank our boss for that.
It's a fantastic way to come back to your desk from the toilet. it beats using the stairs any day. We've got heads up to Anthony there for installing it.
It looks like the people in charge have ushered us off and thanked us for our time. So thanks very much for your time today, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, all that kind of stuff.
That's Anthony's favourite line. So like, share, and subscribe.
And have a good rest of your evening, and we hope to hear from you very soon in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.